Welcome to Demond Does the 6 questions, where the same 6 questions can tell a unique story. I am your host, Demond, father of 2, husband of 1, and leader of this here Demodcast. My next guest is a streamer and podcaster who saved us from a spinoff about a comic book artist named Devante by naming his show Blerd-ish. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for one half of the dynamic duo from the Dirty South, Keith Cooper.
Man, how can you not love that intro? Y'all give it up for this man. From one podcast to another. Woo! Come on, Arsenio Hall. I done made well, look. Anytime somebody intro you like that, you stand up and you applaud for him.
Probably say this almost every episode. I'm grateful that people come on the show, and I want people to feel special when I introduce them for coming on the show. I shoot for the best intro that they've had, so I do it as appreciation for you taking time out to take time out of your day. So thank you very much. Where would you like to be found on the internet?
The easiest and most comprehensive place is on Instagram, blurred.ish, because thankfully the little link that they have in there, you can always go to whatever the link is there. It's valuable. Right now, it's my link tree. It was my personal URL that was the higher evolution of the link tree, but my URL, shout out to Black IT as I affectionately call her, is redeveloping my website, having some technical issues and some other stuff that's been kind of prolonged. It's a snag that was not foreseen, and it pains me because it's like my baby. My website is my name of my pod, and. But you can find me the easiest thing. Go to blurred.ish on Instagram. If not, I have a Blerd-ish Facebook. I'm Keith Cooper on Facebook. It's no problem to hit me up if you are not stupid or crazy. That's what I always tell people. Like, hey, you can always I'm a personal figure per se. I'm not no celebrity. I'm like whatever Z level celebrity is, put me double under that. And so you can just hit me up like a regular person. But if you're crazy or whatever, do not hit me up. All jokes tongue in cheek. But for real though, if you are, just hate me from afar and stay away from me.
All right, Keith, are you ready to answer the 6 question?
Sure.
Question number 1. When did you know you wanted to become a podcaster?
It's something I fell into, which has been the evolution of Blerd-ish in all facets, from podcasting to becoming a comic book distributor slash vendor. Podcasting actually did not start with Blerd-ish. It started with my defunct podcast called Basketball and BS, which is now a Facebook group. It's hidden from the public. I don't want it to grow. I don't care because sports fights or whatever. But I started that because, and I guess I can double it up with Blerd. Basically, as an NBA fan, I don't know if you're an NBA fan or not, but I'm just gonna be blunt. I saw some of the stupidest comments ever in my life, and some of the dumbest opinions that kept being put about, and some of the stuff I just felt was wrong. Like y'all, this is just tiresome. And you can have I ain't gonna say a civil discourse, but you can have an intelligent one on Fandom, and you can discuss something, because sports, nerdy stuff, different things, fans move in a way, same way, and there's different factions of it, and you might find those few smart, good people out there in that fandom, but a lot of times you're gonna find trash. So me and my friends who are big NBA fans started their own, and that's how that came out, and that was originally Basketball BS. Schedules got in the way, different things, and just we didn't keep it up. So it just works as a group for as a kind of a I think I say a safe place, but far as a chill place to talk sports without all the oh I hate LeBron and 1,000 MJ is the greatest posts because I kind of will when I moderate I kind of cut some things and some things are not going to be allowed in my space. If anything, from what I consider it as a failure as a pod, it didn't achieve what I wanted to achieve, but it did create a safe space for people. But what came out of Blerd-ish after that is how I met my main podcast partner through Basketball BS through a mutual friend. And it was before Black Panther was coming out. And they both knew that we were into comics and nerdy stuff and video games and blah blah blah. And they was like, "Hey, y'all should meet, whatever." And then he was like, "I like comics." He was like, "I like comics." And this was before Black Panther. And for us old heads, have you ever seen Blues Brothers where the Blues Brothers come together and it's like the music and light? It was like, hey, let's just do a podcast. And we got on it, and then we didn't start the first, and then we kind of waited. But what also sped it up is that when we were done with the basketball season, everybody still kind of wanted to pod, but then I was like, okay, like, but we were also good at reviewing TV, especially my friend Harold. He was really good at it, but he didn't really want to do that a part of it or something. I don't know why. And we just kind of all of our schedules spun out of control because it was like, let's see, start out five of us, then it became four consistently. That's a lot of people on the podcast. So stuff, things, life happened. And then so Blerd-ish became my main thing, long story short. And it we started as a podcast. My first non-table that was vending was actually just to inform people where I'm from, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, that there are a lot of black comic book artists and creators out there. So I did like an information table. Like I literally had people cut out pictures of indie comic books. We put it on the table. I didn't sell a thing. And that was one of my first tables, if you will. And then there after that, I was asked to become a seller for my first artist was Jason Reeves. He's from New Orleans. Met him a few months before at what used to be Wizard World is now Fan Expo. Met him at Wizard World New Orleans. So it was like a lot of stuff happening within, say, from 2015, 2016 up until now. So I had two podcasts. I'm down. I almost went to zero. And then I met people, and now I work with I kind of collab with one of my guests consistently. We do anime-ish. Shout out to Nerd Soul. So he's kind of like, it's two of us in Blerd-ish. I'm the owner, but we're two of that. But we work with several people, and we collabed, and we have morphed a couple of times. We started out like you. Uh, we were doing guests. We were doing it every week. Every week, it just boom, boom, boom. Then we like burned out. And then it's just like I came across. First of all, I want to say thank you for being like, y'all. This man here is reaching out to people, doing the work. I've been there. I know. I don't know how long you've been podcasting.
This is year 4. I think this is episode 85, I believe.
Okay, I'm on year 8. I'm not gonna lie. Around that year 4, and when you start, if you come across some bad guests, it make you want to take the computer and throw it in the wall and other stuff. So, you know, I like when he asked me that, I was just like, I made sure to try to keep on my time schedule. And if I wasn't gonna be able to make it, I was gonna let him know. I was like, wait, and I said, hey, I'm Central Time. He's East Coast. All right. So like let's understand the difference in time. I've had one of my last attempted guests kind of blew a fuse. I'm like, I said I was Central Time, partner. But people hear what they want to hear. So all that to say is, I see he that side is him, and he knows. But he's probably a great, nicer guest to me. I'm a nice host, but my schedule in life just made it more difficult to do guests, to fit their life. And it's just like I was guesting on for a year. I was like doing as many guest spots as I was kind of my own. And then me and Nerd Soul was like, "Hey man, let's do this." I said, "Hey, anime is going up a level." I said, "Hey, I see what people are buying, yada yada." I mean, anime was always up a level, but I'm like, I'm kind of more interested to talk about that, reviews, other stuff, because he would always ask me to come on and do reviews. And Nerd Soul is a machine. I don't know how he does it, but he does so many things. But so I was like, okay, cool, because we would always do reviews and stuff anyway, but we got more to it. So I'm not opposed to guests at this point. I'm not. I just like to go on record. Oh, as many players say it, but it has to be ease of use and non-crazy people and respectful people.
Yeah, you have to screen, as
Yeah.
best you can, and and life's weird anyway. So sometimes things just
I
happen.
will say this though. Not screening sometimes is how you get some of the most, I don't know if it's a good pod, but it'd be a good to yourself type of pod. I've had one of the craziest comic book writers ever. Nice guy. I haven't seen, I don't know. I hope he all right. I ain't seen him in the socials, but he had an interesting like comic strip going. But I've interviewed some very, very dope comic book writers and different things. So sometimes just let people go, see what you get. Sometimes like, like Forrest Gump say, I don't know, it's like a box of chocolates. You just gonna let like open the box and hope it don't bite you.
Real quick, something we have in common, kind of. I this was a long time ago, but I used to live in Baton Rouge.
What?
Yeah, I was here by 2000, back here by 2000. So it's probably like 98, 99, 2000,
Okay.
something like that around there.
Here for college, work.
It was for work. I used my. I'm from Indiana. I'm from the southern Indiana, and my parents moved to Memphis. And after college, I moved down there and lived with them. Got a job, and then wound up getting transferred to Baton Rouge before I came back to Louisville. So, yeah. So when you said
All
Baton
right.
Rouge, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, yes. And I just like to go on record and say this, and it's something I'll probably touch on, but Blerd-ish, the real Blerd-ish, you can hashtag it, is from Baton Rouge. I'll go into that later, maybe.
What
That's
is
what I,
your most controversial nerd take?
the one that shocked people the most is that I don't care about Star Wars. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I'm indifferent, and I can explain why. Not that I give a damn if anybody don't like it, like my opinion on that, but I can explain why. I was raised by an older gentleman. Rest in peace, my father, James Cooper. He grew up when, you know, with no really luxury. Like talking about, he had to earn that. He came from the country, if you will, of Greensburg, Louisiana. He grew up deep in segregation. In fact, my dad was very older. He was old enough to be my grandpa. He was born in 1923, 24. Died about 93, 94. So he lived a long time. So he had me later in life, raised by him and everything. My dad didn't really go to movies, and I lived in a park called Baker.
Area.
Baker is north of North Baton Rouge. I lived in a park called Leland College that was across the street from a cow pasture at the time. It didn't have sidewalks, and down the street was a youth prison. Prison.
Wow.
Now, 4 or 5 miles away was Southern University, which is my alma mater. So that's just to give you an indication of we ain't have movies. I ain't have hobby shops. You know how I read comics? We wouldn't, and I say this as the older people say, when we went into town, yes, when you went into town to go grocery shopping, or us in Louisiana say go make groceries, and I would be happy to like, I'm going to Win Dixie. I'm gonna go read all the comics. I'm gonna go read all the game stuff, whatever. So when Star Wars was coming out, we didn't go to it, and we didn't have a VCR. And sometimes we have cable off and on, not because we couldn't afford cable, but I was raised as a poor kid. But my dad was just like, I don't want this, and sometimes just cut it off, or he think it's like poisoning your mind or something because my dad was religious. But I mean, he when he had cable, he liked it, but he's just like, yeah. Sometimes he'd be out of there. So sometimes you'll see the stuff on replay, and I'll see parts of Star Wars and different things. But he took us to see Indiana Jones in the theater, or at least one or two of them, but he didn't give a damn about Star Wars. So it never caught me as a kid, and I knew of it, and I'm just like, it's there, it's cool. My space opera was Voltron, because I watched Voltron religiously as a kid, and I love it to this day. And that was my first anime.
Loved Voltron. I'm assuming it was the lions and not the cars. Yes.
Uh, yeah, at this point, look, I know there's always that nerd that be like, well, actually, Voltron. I'm like, look, go lion, beast, go lion, beast, lion, however you will put it. The
I,
lions
before we
is
get
the
into
Voltron.
it, I see how y'all get down on your show. Before we get into it, I only acknowledged it because it actually existed, not because it was great. It wasn't better. It wasn't anything. It probably made an amazing toy. Now that I think about it, but I was just acknowledging that the fact that the vehicle Voltron existed.
Ex-
That's it.
I seen them in toy form like once, and it's like a gajillion pieces. The lions got five big lions that are pretty. They are cool, and it's easier to use a badge. Like, first of all, it's a big giant space robot, but I need a van as a foot. I want a lion that can bite you and shoot laser beams. There's a reason why Go Lion was cooler in America. There's a reason why. In fact, I just watched a thing on if you ever watch Secret Galaxy on YouTube, they just did a reason why Voltron Third Dimension failed, and they done other little mini documentaries on that, and they did a real brief thing about how there's really three Voltrons. Nobody remembers the second Voltron because Go Lion is actually the third Voltron. Vehicle Voltron is the first Voltron. Second Voltron, I don't even know why he exists. So and, yeah, there's the Voltron was always supposed to be three in the force of a different sector, but as the American company realized what worked and they had the rights, they was like, you know what? It's all about those lions.
We can't sell the Triforce, man. We need to make these lines so we can get some toys.
It might work in Japan, but we just wasn't there yet. We needed what worked. GI Joe was simple. Three Triforce of Voltron, and the Voltron Force was literally was a force, but yeah, you just worry about the five people. And shout out to Netflix for that remake, man. I watched it. I need to rewatch it. Yes, that's kind of my hot take. And honestly, I feel perfectly fine. I don't care about Star Wars because apparently the people who love Star Wars hate it to a full on inferno of burning hate. So I just be like, oh, okay, cool. Everybody's angry.
Passionate fans on the internet are the of any stripe. Fandoms are difficult to deal with.
Man, look, tune out sometimes. It's okay. Touching grass is fine.
Yes, yeah, yes, gotta touch grass. Question number 2. What do you wish you had known when you first started out?
Who to avoid, spaces to avoid, and events I should not have done.
Can you give me an example how you found out the hard way of spaces to avoid?
I say that, but then I met great people in some places that I no longer like to be at, or I feel like it's not for me. So I can't say it was all a waste of time. In fact, there's some people who are still good friends that I kick it with, seen, met in real life, or they come down and visit down here, or do dealings with. But overall, I have met some. The nicest way to put it, there's a lot of variety of nerds and different things, and I just say that whatever you are, or whatever you believe in, or whatever your core values are, believe it or not, there's gonna be a space that kind of fits for it. And sometimes you still may not fit, or you might be like, I don't agree with that. That's cool. I say don't be, as they say, I guess in Japan, the nail that stands out get hammered.
Hmm.
Just read the room when you know that you're dealing with some folks and different things. That's just like in general in life. And I'll say this, as we say in our show, it doesn't matter if it's nerdum, fandom, regular life, or whatever. A lot of these same principles apply. It does not matter. So just sometimes I'll be like, yeah, I wish I could have avoided that. Just be like, did I waste my time, or it was just a pain of a person to deal with, or then or you feel like you have a grudge follow you or something, and you just like make sure that not to feed the trolls and all that. Sometimes you can just literally come outside and two people are just fighting, and then they like, hey, whose side you with? I'm like, I'm on my side. Leave me alone. And I've had that kind of quote unquote kind of happen.
As you started becoming a vendor and a podcaster and everything, when did you know it was like, okay, I kind of like this vending thing? Because it didn't sound like that was a part of your initial game plan.
I hate to sound like a greedy capitalist, but I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. When I got one of my first big sale days, and it was very interesting. Like, even though I became a vendor, I think I did vending for a year before I did any, say, quote unquote, other than one library con, and I helped. I was a part of the planning team for that. And like I said, my first time doing that one, I didn't even wasn't even a sale table. I was an information table. But I would do like pop-ups. I would do all type of weird events that just were available. One, I missed the outside market, and I would just like kind of research. And strangely enough, Baton Rouge, as you know, been down here, we love outdoor festivals. We love stuff to do, and it's just like I kind of weirdly fit. I don't have to travel. Like I didn't have to start out traveling to like I don't know Atlanta or Texas to even do an event. I could just kind of like found some stuff that I was like, how do I apply for this? Oh, like this is what you do. So I would start with like open market fairs when I was able to go on Saturdays. And like I said, my life kind of changed where it's harder for me to do a Saturday here locally unless I hate to say it, if unless it's like worth me taking off or my wife taking off because we both work. If one of us isn't working Saturday, one of us is watching our son till 6 because we both work for the same organization. So our schedule have to, rotate so that we can, be parents. So it's not an easy thing. But when we had help, when my mother-in-law was still alive, my son was a little bit smaller, she can watch him, or sometimes my mom could watch him. So I would just try everything. I went hard at it. This was like when I was a little bit younger, I was like, all right, I'm gonna just do this because I laughed. And when shout out to Jace Reeves, when he asked me, like, hey, would you sell his books? And my response was like, are you sure you want me to do this, man? Like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like, for real. Like, I said, bro, I hate sales. I said, I'm not a sales guy. I said, I never done sales at all. And here I am still doing it. And then he's like, oh man, you got it. Like you gonna do it. Like, try this. And I mean, he kind of made it where I couldn't refuse. It's like, hey man, I will ship you the stuff. This is your cut and go at it. And lo and behold, one of the books that he lived in California. He still lived in California at the time, but he had something so unique to this part of the region. He had an ABC book and a 1, 2, 3 book that used the culture of South Louisiana and New Orleans to teach kids literacy and different things. And that's when I met him. I said, "Man, these books are dope." And I bought a couple, and he's his own printer, so he can print his own stuff and all that. And he had a whole lot, and he said, yeah, they weren't selling in California, this and that. And I sold his whole back stock of what he just had laying around here. That was like my first popular item that I had that can really move. Of course, taste changed different things from, books, ABC books, but I realized that I started selling to mostly people that weren't just like comic book fans. Like my first customers might be like a teacher, a soccer mom, or something. They see something for kids and then be like, "Oh, this is cute, this is cool, and this is culturally relevant to here." So that's when I'm like, "Oh, okay, so maybe there's like a oddball audience that isn't like, the dude at the comic book store who ain't buying no money, who ain't spending money anyway. Or they might see some black books and be like, I don't know these characters. I don't know these indie books. Eh. But then, mom or somebody else or grandma or uncle or be like, hey, I'll get this for this kid, or a kid themselves might want to read. Or maybe the adults say, I want to try something different. So to start off with one person and it led to like other different creators. And I'd say big break, if you will, was a guy used to be in Lafayette, Louisiana. And I don't even know what made me stop in his store. Shane. His name was Shane, and he would do some of the cons. Like Louisiana Comic Con is one that was in Lafayette by this company. So I didn't know who would run companies or know how to apply the cons. I never thought to do it. And I was like, they cost a lot of money. Do I want to do it? Yada yada. But then I could kind of feel myself getting a little stagnant doing just like small things here or stuff that wasn't really in comics. After a while, you only can do so much of that, or feel like you're wasting your time and you're not growing. I guess me and Shane kind of hit it off. Like sometimes, like I would just travel Lafayette to kill time. I'll drop in the store. He let me do a pop up at his store. I did it, and then he was like, "Hey, Keith, I'm going to do Louisiana Comic Con," and I'm like, "I'm gonna do Jackson, Mississippi Comic Con." Now I would go a couple times, but I never worked it as a vendor. In fact, shout out to Mississippi Comic Con, one of my favorite cons, period, and pretty much has become my best selling event. He let me basically intern as a part of his booth because he had like the whole gaming space or something both times. So he ran the gaming state space with the arcades or like with the Switch, and he would have like the tournaments for like say Smash Brothers and Mario Kart. So he gave me a little bit of space. Well, the first table we had, it was a big booth, but it was also like we all crammed up in there. So I was like in the middle or the side, and I had like one rack. I had like one table rack, maybe a floor rack, and I just crammed it with stuff. And I sold a lot. And this is pre-COVID time. I did nothing. I was like, and he didn't charge me for the table at all. So I'm like, damn. I was like, so this how it works at con. Like I'm not even like, okay, this con's a four. Like, let me do the math. How much is this table? I said, okay, I need to, become my own company or at least start having my own say thing reference points where people can, you know, see that I've done a con. So I kind of have become a salesman, whereas like you always be selling. You always looking forward, always going. I pop up when I talk on my pod or if I'm just doing something silly, but you rarely see me on my social media. Maybe that's like a bad habit, but at the end of the day, I'm kind of a multi hyphenate, but I want you to see people happy enjoying the products that I sell. That's a number one in all of this. Podcasting, I don't get no money from podcasting. Not saying it's all about money, but the business part of it, you got to put your business first. If I never told Shane, thank you, Shane. Like I got to intern at the Louisiana Comic Con. That was dope. Mississippi. It was eye opening to me. And then I was able to start getting into some cons, and I've been doing some paid cons ever since. That really lifted me up and it opened my eyes to it. So that was my big break.
Question number 3. What's your go-to order at your favorite hometown restaurant?
Since you know where I'm from, the answer is I hate to be vague. The real answer is too many to name. I would say I like, the standard Cajun food fare. I like catfish. It don't have to be fried. You could do blackened. That's really great. Of course, everybody likes, I mean, I ain't gonna say everybody like crawfish. I can afford it. Cool, great. Shrimp. But I have become a ramen connoisseur and pho. I love, honestly, probably pho. Some places, especially during winter. I know we don't have a big winter here, but I hate cold anytime. So I get, if you get congested, sick. So I go pho is my go-to thing or ramen. Those they just stand out to me for some reason. And probably sushi. So I know I with all this good Cajun food and all this food, Creole food, of course I mean, those are the go-tos that if you get good red beans and rice, jambalaya, shrimp and grits, or somebody's got a great boil going on, obviously. But just far as through the general time, because unfortunately, I'm not the best cook myself. Think, my wife can throw down, but I am just basic, unfortunately. I don't have the skill.
You aren't as practiced as your wife.
Yes, I am not as practiced as my wife. You know what's crazy? I'd be like, "Hey, baby, teach me how to cook what you like." You know what she tells me? She's like, "Go to YouTube. I don't feel like teaching you." I'm like, I want to cook it where you're going to eat it, not where yes, I have an edible palate. When I lived by myself in Tampa and New Orleans, now New Orleans, I was traveling. I used to practicing to be a bank examiner, so I was always on the road. When I was home, of course, when I'm home in New Orleans, I was just like, I know I was gonna eat out something good and decent. Like you can just go anywhere, the most mom and pop place and it blow your face off, but I'll just like have like a George Foreman grill. I was living like a homeless man in my apartment because I was never there. So I ain't really have no furniture. I ain't really stuff it with nothing. I was living poor man, frugal. So maybe that's why I didn't have the chance to practice a lot of cooking skills. So, but that's actually when I ate the healthiest. Go
Mm.
figure. You don't have nothing, you can't overeat. That's the secret. I'll just like pop open some green beans, put a little season on it, give me some lettuce. Cool. I was slender. More slender than I am now. I was still a chubby man, but the weight came on with the traveling in Mississippi. I blame Mississippi for my weight. And not because they're like the best food. It's because it was a necessity. Mississippi has come a long way, by the way. I had some of the worst gumbo ever in my life in Mississippi. It was in Gulfport. I remember it vividly. Look, you can see through that cup of gumbo. I'm like, this ain't no gumbo, y'all. This is water with some boiled stuff in it. But I
Ew.
was like, all right, let me try this. I'm just like, this is tea. This is meat tea. I don't think that restaurant is in business anymore.
If their gumbo is any indication, it's not surprising.
Think I had some of the worst Hooters wings in Gulfport also. And I love Gulfport as a city. But they've improved after Katrina because I think a lot of people from New Orleans moved that way to take jobs and people who know how to cook went to Gulfport and saved Gulfport and saved the industry there. It was rough for a minute. It was like, man, what's going on?
Wow. Question number 4. What are you curious about?
How to continue to grow a business without pulling my hair out, how to do it with less time, but I need more time and fun. But I guess in the short answer, I'm always curious about finding out what folks are into as books are concerned. And that leads to kind of where I'm at with as a book distributor. I'm able to have gone up a level a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's proud to say this because sometimes y'all, and I say this as a living testimony, if you will, the work you put out there, you don't know who you're going to inspire to come back and to possibly help you. And, shout out to my friend James of Red Stick Reads. He is one of my suppliers, one of my distributors. So this allows me to get some mainstream books to be able to put on my table and to sell. And I actually sometimes we work out deals. I do consignment. Look it up what that means for some of the books. He's like, I can't sell this. Hey, take this, sell it for me. Cool. So working with each other as small businesses, collaborations. Collaboration is key. Like
Mm-hmm.
for real, for real. He met me at a makers fair at the East Baton Rouge Parish Library, and he kind of seemed like this happy-go-lucky. almost surfer guy, almost a little bit. And he was like, I'm gonna open up a indie bookstore in Baton Rouge. I'm just like, in my mind, I didn't say nothing to me, but I'm like, man, this dude is crazy. I'm like, really? It's like, man, bookstores are a risky business, especially brick and mortars. Especially when you got we got two Barnes and Noble in town, and there's always the looming threat of Amazon. And then I say, hey man, he's like, hey, I would like to work with you, blah blah blah. I said, all right, cool. Leave me your information. He gave me some weird AT&T email or something. I'm like, this thing don't work. I was like, either I wrote it wrong or this is garbage. I was like, I ain't gonna see him. Yeah, I ain't worried about him. Sure enough, he found me again and randomly wasn't playing or nothing. I don't know if he saw me again. It wasn't a year later. I think it was less than a year. I said, James, the email you gave me don't work, blah, blah, blah. I said, give me some good information. I said, I'm down. I said, I would like to see you pull this off. It sounds hopeful. And shortly, he was able to open his store up during the pandemic and grow during the pandemic because a lot of people, he used to work at Barnes Noble himself and he worked at a popular restaurant. He's a chef by trade or a cook by trade, and he was able to grow his business, been running 4 years. Go figure. So he's been able to live out his dream, and I helped inspire him a little bit from what he said and I remember the words he told me. He said, seeing you do this at pop-ups, fair or maker fairs lets me know that it can be done. And
Nice.
I was like, okay, cool. And at first I was just like, all right, whatever, man. I was just like, and now here we are years later. He helps my business, I help his business, and we collab together. And that's probably been, other than a few indie creators, probably been like my biggest supplier and distributor. One
Nice.
of my biggest distributors. So, which leads me to the ever present evolution of curation. Curation is just, it's fun, it's scary, it's nerve wracking. I'm 42, so I may not know what a 14-year-old likes. You know, I may not know what, when you start checking off the boxes, I'm a 14-year-old black man. I may not know what a little 5-year-old white girl like. I don't know, but can you find that line and can you see what people may like? May you know what characters they may like? Little girls or guys, whatever, might like, say, what's a popular, like Peppa Pig. Maybe they like Peppa Pig, or maybe they like Moon Girl or something. It's like, okay, so you like, or if I see you holding, like, maybe a kid is holding like a doll or something or action figure. And of course, one of the times that since we started, Black Panther was everything. So that was like, oh, it was like kids love Black Panther or kids love the Avengers. So I could pepper some of that in. And I'm gonna tell you now, when they created Spider-Man, they created gold. It's just kind of weird. It's like Spider-Man is always going to live on. There's some characters that's gonna live on forever. Spider-Man is one of them. Dragon Ball Z is probably one of them, but I don't really sell Dragon Ball Z just because it's such a big property and legacy thing. Me getting book one of Dragon Ball sometimes be like, will that work? But lo and behold, I just did two omnibuses of One Piece. I'm like, I ain't gonna find, like, James was like, hey, will you sell this for me? He had a book fair. And he was like, I said, I'll try, James. I said, man, it's One Piece, man. It's legendary. People who probably know about it already read this. Sold them. The girl's like, oh my God. It's like she's a young, she was like probably under 14. And she was like, yes. And he was like, now these are brand spanking new books and whatever. And they were like 16 a piece. I said, they're 16 a piece. Her dad was just like, hey, she wants it, man. She was just like, I'm gonna get it for her. He's like, she was like, thank God, yes. It's like she was so happy. I was like, and it was one of the fastest things that sold on my table by Reese's event. I said, I'm glad I got to try that on consignment, and cool. And it's the thing that you think that don't sell. It's like, this ain't gonna sell. It's out of there. But the stuff that you're hoping and like, yeah, this is gonna do it, and then when it don't, And be like, ah, be like, you just don't know. I say for me, variety is the key. I've incorporated manga or manga inspired things, and I try to add, of course, black created manga. Shout out to Saturday AM PM. They books have a high variety in that style. I know people gonna be like, "Well, it's not from Japan, so it's not manga." Whatever. It's you know it when you see it. Just like people like this, like the stupidest argument. Side note: if y'all watch listen to our show, we'll say side note. One of the dumbest arguments out there is if Avatar is anime or not. Here's what Avatar is. It's great. All right? That's what it is. It's a legacy show, cartoon slash anime, animation, whatever have you. That is something that is so good they done turned it live action. It's so good they keep the comic books of it sell. It's so good it done touch generations and people be like, but it's not anime. Weebs are
So,
funny.
so what? So what?
I'll be like, sure, man.
So what?
Thus, my spinoff name is Anime-ish. Aha!
That's another one gone. Can you embarrass?
But yeah, anime is just like something I created, and it's like, you know what? That's another group I keep hidden because I don't want everybody to come in with terrible opinion. It's opinions are cool. Curation is something I'm forever trying to figure out because it changes from year to year. Luckily, it doesn't always change so fast, but you can't get stagnant. You cannot get stagnant as obviously as a reviewer, and I use what I review to kind of push out onto the table as I guess in the media machine per se.
Question number 5. Is there anything I should have asked but didn't?
My opinion, one of the greatest risks, always protect your business and protect your ideas with people. And sometimes you just try your hardest not to have people copy your homework, I should say. But stand up for yourself. I've actually had people try to steal my name, Blerd-ish, and pretend to that it was something else. And look, as a small time guy, it sucks when you're from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and then there's some dude pop up on the internet from New York City trying to steal your name on his shirt because he a hack. Actually, I had a comic book writer, I ain't gonna say his name, tried to create a Blerd-ish podcast. And then when I called him out, blah, 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 I got very indignant and he wanted to hit me up. I said, you know what? You can say what you want. And then he up to tell me, well, I got more YouTube people just tweeted this. I said, I don't care. I said, you're a hack. And you know what's funny? After I called him out, and then he was more mad that I called him out on his personal page. I'm like, I don't give a damn. I'm like, what pissed me off though was one of my guests. Now he might have been on some substance. I hear he has substance abuse issues, so that's not to shame him. But he did kind of piss me off. I'm like, you've been on my show, and he was giving this guy credit. Like, oh, that's not. I said, bro, you've been on the Blerd-ish podcast. I said, what are you talking about? I said, wow. I said, for real, for real. I said, is this how people who I've tried to shine a light on do me? I was like, I said, I'm about to rethink this. So let's just say I slipped into a dark corner with guests for a hot minute or thinking like, I'm not about to be bringing people on my show about to steal ideas and my name on me, you know. And sure enough, was it this year? It might have been this year or last year. Somebody came to me at an event and asked, oh, do you have such and such comic, the hack who tried to steal my name? I said, I'm gonna tell you like this, bruh. I'll never sell his shit on my table. Don't you ever ask for his shit. God be with you. I said, ain't nothing against you. I said, he a hack and he a terrible person. But you know what? Why I feel good about it? I don't know who this person was, but after people saw me cut up a little bit, somebody said, yeah. Yeah, he's a thief and he tries to steal from people. Thank you. I said, okay, cool. I said, because sometimes I want to like, did I go too far? Shout out to my boy Mark Dub. Mark Dub be like, nah, you did. He's like this. She's like, hell no. He's like, if you ever see him, you should swing on him. I'm like, well, I should do that, maybe. But let's just say some events I'm glad I probably will never go to. Some places I'm just never gonna go because some things happen at certain events that I'm not gonna spend my money. I feel like they're cursed to me. And there's a in fact, the person who tried to steal my name on their t-shirts were at a very big popular con. I ain't gonna say the name of the con. Y'all put two and two together. And they were a vendor there. And I had people follow me that was like friends with them that was on my IG modeling the shirt. I'm like, oh, you followed me. I said, all right. I said, and I hit them up. I hit this person up, this IG girl who's friends with that, and friends of another person. I said, those people are thieves, and you out here wearing the fake shit. You can get with the real thing, with the real Blerd-ish, and you can buy a shirt from me if you want something that says Blerd-ish on it. I said, or you can keep with that busted up garbage that you got. I said, okay, if you ain't gonna respond, I said, you got to the end of the day, I'm blocking you and whoever else in y'all little crew, whatever weird thing y'all got going on. I said, you know what? Cool. Another person that kind of got me out of that funk was a person like, you know what? Sometimes, now legally, yes, you know, when you can get things legal, legal does cost money, you know, make sure to protect your assets, but also don't give up. Do not stop working because if you are the real deal McCoy, you will rise to the top. And that's what somebody told me. It was like, yo, it was like, Keith, I'll work them. Work so hard that when anybody, pretty much in fact, try this out right now. Google Blerd-ish and see who name come up. And you can probably spell it phonetically or with the hyphen and see how long it takes for my name to come up and see if you find any fakes. And that's Google, y'all.
Just to note, I put the dash in. Let's see. I know that's you. That's you in New Orleans. Instagram. Crescent City Comics. Wait. I think I found one. Nope. It says can't be reached. You got the whole front page, it looks like.
There you have it. The SEO on my name speaks for itself. Therefore, at this point, if you try to steal Blerd-ish, you're probably working for me. You're only probably going to make my name pop better. So I've learned that, you know, I post a lot for a reason. That's why I'm on Twitch for a reason. I don't do YouTube because I could, but I'm not gonna put the effort into it. It's just not my thing. So I can't stop fakes from out there. But if you got common sense, folks, there's a reason why hashtag Blerd-ish, hashtag the real Blerd-ish. You're gonna see this face or you're gonna hear this voice. Or you're gonna see some book comics, happy people selling books, with a book they bought. So from me to you to the world. And if that sound arrogant, I don't give a shit. Cause that pissed me off. I'm sorry for all the curse. I'm sorry, I ain't even asked. But that was one of my darkest times, I should say, during this whole media slash thing.
It's
But I'm in a much better space with it.
And I'm glad you got through because it's nice to hear like the lessons you've learned. It's really cool. So thank you for passing that on for sure.
Yeah, never stop working. Don't give up. If you got a vision, try to see it through. And also, podcast lesson. I just say this quick podcast lesson. Podcasting can be a black hole. Do it if you really want to do it. There's ways to do it for free. Don't feel overly obligated to spend your life savings to start podcasting.
Question number 6. If you could create a new holiday, what would it commemorate?
Have y'all ever heard of Golden Week in Japan? They stress them out so wild with their work hours and days that they literally give them a week off to like go take a vacation. It's kind of like almost like Easter break for general America. But I also believe we can use a week that don't have to be tied to anything religious, whatever, because of this society. Because people love to say, "Oh, Americans don't work hard." Bullshit. Okay, the 4 hour, 40-hour work week is not convenient. Some of us who needs to be around our kids more and do more, for our especially as a special needs parent, sometimes life gets in the way. I would create a holiday, just a week like Golden Week in America. You take off, no questions asked, mental health, chill, rest, recuperate, do you. I guess, unfortunately, our society, that would be very hard to do because somebody would be mad, but it's just like maybe those who can, for the bulk of people who can participate, is something like a Golden Week where you just like, get out of here.
That'd be nice. That'd be nice. Matter of fact, if we all took a golden week, I think we'd get a lot more changes. Like, we need people to work. Like, we're not working. How about that?
Yeah, just like, what if we could just stop for a week and then everybody can just like reflect and think. Um, I don't know. I know that might sound hippy dippy or whatever, but it just be good to like, hey, can I just like take a week off? Actually see my wife and kids. Maybe we take a little walk or a hike or take a little road trip. And then we come back. I don't have to use leave and all this. We just have that time off for Golden Week. If I'm saying it right, but I think it is called Golden Week in Japan.
I like it. Keith, thank you very much. Any parting words, bits of advice for our listeners?
Have fun, be good to people, and just, I don't know, pass on some good knowledge.
Again, thank you once again for joining us, whether it's your first time or this time for the 6 questions. And if you like the show, tell the world. Jump on your podcast app and leave a 5-star review and tell your friends. That's the best way to help us grow the show and more can join the conversation. And until next time, see it, hear it, speak it,